My friend/boyfriend said we weren't a couple, so I broke his heart. We had been seeing each other for a year, and everything seemed to indicate that we were a couple. He said he loved me and I loved him. He spent every weekend with me, and we had even planned our first trip together. Last weekend we were in bed, and I made him pancakes because his birthday was on Tuesday. I was very happy, and he joked that I was spoiling him too much. I replied that I wanted to spoil my man. Then, completely calm and with a smile on his face, he said, "I'm not your man." He didn't sound uncomfortable or embarrassed, just confident. At first I didn't take it seriously and joked back that I already knew. But his expression changed and he said, "No, seriously, I'm not your boyfriend." I felt a knot in my stomach, but I tried to keep my composure and asked what we were then. He answered, "I don't know. Good friends with benefits." I didn't say anything else. He ate the pancakes in silence. Then he asked if we were going to do anything that day, and I told him I planned to clean and get ahead on some errands. He left an hour later. As soon as I closed the door, I ran to the bathroom to vomit and cried for hours. I couldn't keep anything down for the rest of the day. That night he texted me thanking me for breakfast and saying it had been amazing. I didn't reply. He called several times, but I didn't answer. Around 10 at night, he knocked on my door. I opened it just a crack, pretending to be sick, and told him I was going to sleep. He offered to stay in case I needed help, but I said no. I didn't reply on Sunday or Monday, and I didn't wish him a happy birthday on Tuesday either. I only sent short messages pretending I was still sick. He never brought up what he had said. Yesterday he texted that he missed me, that we had never gone so long without talking, and that he was going crazy. He asked if we could at least have dinner. I told him I was very busy. He replied, "Don't you miss me?" I answered that I was very tired because I had gone out all night with another guy. When I sent that message, my heart raced and I started shaking. Not out of guilt, I hadn't done anything with anyone, but out of anger for having felt used. For the first time since that breakfast conversation, I felt like I was taking back control. He saw it almost immediately. He typed, stopped, typed again, disappeared, and came back. Anxiety tightened my chest, but I didn't let it show. I put the phone down and went to take a shower, as if none of it were shredding my pride. When I came back, there was a short message. I read it and ignored it. The game was no longer his. It was mine. 2 hours later another message arrived. "Do whatever you want, but don't complain afterward." I smiled. He thought he was threatening me, but I recognized that tone. Jealousy disguised as arrogance. He had always thought himself smart, irresistible, the prize. So convinced that no matter what he did, I'd still be there, the woman who makes pancakes and settles for crumbs of affection. Not this time. That night, around 10:30, when the street was quiet and I was lying in bed with my face buried in the pillow, the doorbell rang. I knew it was him. No one else would show up unannounced at that hour. I let it ring. Then came soft knocks on the door. I got up quietly and looked through the side window. There he was, leaning against the wall, arms crossed, with that arrogant smile, as if he were doing me a favor by being there. He texted, "I just want to talk. You know this tantrum won't last, right?" Tantrum, that's what he thought it was. I replied, "You said you weren't my boyfriend. I'm just enjoying my freedom." He answered immediately, "Freedom you never wanted. You'll get tired of this little act quickly. Call me when it passes." I read that and let out a dry, nervous laugh. He still thought I'd run after him, beg him, that he was the prize. But that night, I was the one who got tired. Tired of begging for scraps of dignity. Tired of being called a friend with benefits, after a year of sharing every weekend. Tired of planning surprises for someone who never considered me his partner. He knocked again, this time harder. He asked if I was going to keep pretending I wasn't home and shouted, with restrained anger, what kind of guy I had gone out with, whether he had been better than him. The silence gave him away. He was jealous. The king of indifference. Shaken. I calmly opened the window and looked him in the eyes. I told him it was none of his business. That he wasn't my boyfriend, remember? His expression changed. From arrogance to surprise, then to anger. He said I couldn't provoke him, ignore him, and treat him like just anyone. But that was exactly what he had done to me for a year. He took a step back, took a deep breath, and said with a forced smile that I'd get tired, that none of those guys would know me like he did, that I'd miss him, and that when that happened, he'd be there. "Don't be," I replied and closed the window. He left that night, but I knew it wasn't over. His ego was too big to accept a no. Jealousy would grow, and so would insecurity. And for the first time, I felt the game had changed. Maybe he never called me his girlfriend, but now he was the one who couldn't sleep, and I was just getting started. The next morning I woke up with a heavy head and a tight chest. His words kept echoing. I felt dirty remembering that I had gotten involved with someone so arrogant, that I had desired his body and his touch. How could I have fooled myself like that? I picked up my phone and started deleting old conversations. Hundreds of messages, memes, videos, and promises that meant something to me. To him, they had only been distractions between one date and another. I understood it then, though the worst was still to come. I went out for coffee with Vanessa, my best friend. I needed to talk to let it all out. She had always been my anchor, my clarity in the middle of storms. When I arrived, she looked at me with that worried expression, like someone who already sensed I was about to collapse. "Did he cross the line again?" she asked before I even sat down. I told her everything, from the conversation where he made it clear he wasn't my boyfriend, to the lie about having gone out with another guy. When I finished, she stayed silent for a few seconds. She took a deep breath while stirring her coffee, as if weighing every word before speaking. "There's something I never wanted to tell you," she began. "I thought he would mature, that he would change, but now I see he never respected you." I felt my stomach tighten. "What do you mean?" "Do you remember that time we went to the bar with people from the university?" she asked. "It was just a few months after you two started seeing each other." I nodded, feeling my blood run cold. That day he came up to talk to me. He complimented me, insisted a bit too much. At first I thought he was just being friendly, but when you went to the bathroom, he got closer and asked me if I'd ever thought about being with both of you at the same time. I froze. Heat rushed to my face and my throat tightened. "He what?" I told him to go to hell, obviously. I told him you were my best friend and that he was an idiot. He just laughed. Said it was a joke, that what mattered was enjoying life without labels. I shut my eyes tightly. How did I not see it? How could I have been so blind? Suddenly everything made sense. The way he was always glued to his phone when he was with me, the knowing smiles with strangers, the new friends on Instagram every week. "Are you sure that?" I started to ask. "Yes," she interrupted. "He went out with at least 2 girls from our class. One of them told me he said he had no commitments, that everything was just for fun. And all that while he was spending every weekend with you." A mix of disgust, disappointment, and humiliation washed over me. I wanted to scream, break something, disappear. He told me he loved me with the same mouth he used to flirt with others behind my back. And still he thought I would beg him. There was no us. He treated me like an option, like a safe place to return to while he experimented with the world. While he collected bodies, kisses and glances, I gave myself believing it was love. But it wasn't. It was convenience. It was ego. I spent the rest of the afternoon in silence. Vanessa tried to keep talking, but I just shook my head. Everything around me seemed to move in slow motion. The laughter in the cafe irritated me. I wanted to stand up and scream that he never loved me, that he lied, that he was a fraud. But I stayed quiet. On the way home, anger turned into something stronger. Focus. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to hide anymore. He underestimated me. And now he was going to learn what it means to play with the wrong heart. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch, replaying every word, every gesture, every ignored warning sign. I put the whole puzzle together and finally saw the clear portrait of a scoundrel. But this time I wouldn't just be another piece in his story. Revenge, slow, silent, began to take shape inside me. It wasn't just pain driving me. It was clarity. I didn't just want to disappear from his life. I wanted him to feel the same discomfort he had planted in me for months, pretending to be someone he never was. The idea came to me when I thought of the only person who had warned me from the beginning. Carlos. Carlos was the complete opposite of him. Polite, calm, with a gentle sense of humor and an honest gaze. He listened more than he spoke, didn't need to show off or compete for attention. The first time we met was at a party, when my almost boyfriend introduced us with that possessive tone, like saying, "She's mine." Carlos just smiled and greeted me respectfully. But it was weeks later, at an academic event, when we really talked. That night he told me something that now echoed loudly. "You're too good for someone like him. Take care of yourself." At the time I thought he was exaggerating. Today I understood that he already knew the rot from the inside. I sent Carlos a simple message. "Hi, I know this might seem strange, but you were right about him. Thank you for being honest. Do you have time this week to talk?" Half an hour later he replied, "Yes. Coffee tomorrow." We met the next day. I arrived with a tight chest, not knowing what to expect. He greeted me with a light hug and a warm smile, the kind that calms inner chaos. We talked for hours. I told him everything, without filters or victimhood. He listened, without interrupting, without minimizing. "I tried to warn you," he said at the end. "He's been my friend for years and he was always like that. Charming, impulsive, a womanizer. He never respected any woman. With you he was crueler because he knew you loved him." I nodded silently. It was true. I had loved with everything I had. But not anymore. "I want to turn the page," I said. "And I want to do it with someone who truly sees me." Carlos looked at me, surprised but not uncomfortable. "You deserve more than he gave you. And more than he'll ever understand someday. And yes, I'm here." For the first time in weeks, I felt peace. Even though somewhere in my mind I knew that when he found out, and he wouldn't be able to stand it. Because nothing hurts a narcissist more than seeing the person he thought disposable start to be happy. Carlos wasn't inferior. He was exactly what the other man never was. Honest, present, transparent. And that would hurt more than any silence of mine ever could. Because now I had a voice, a choice and power. And the man who thought I would always be waiting no longer would. I would soon discover that the world keeps turning, and that sometimes it turns beautifully. It didn't take long for the news to reach him. I knew it would only be a matter of days. Men like him always have eyes and ears everywhere, especially when they feel they've lost control over someone they believe to be predictable. He never imagined I would be capable of flipping the game on him. It happened on a Saturday night. I was with Carlos at a discreet restaurant. Not fancy, but charming. Dim lights, a guitar playing softly in the background, shared laughter. We were joking about nothing in particular, a dessert sitting between us on the table, when I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. 1, 2, 3 messages in a row. "Is this for real? Are you with him? You've lost your mind. We need to talk now." I didn't reply. Carlos noticed the change in my expression and asked if everything was okay. I smiled with the fakest calm in the world and told him I'd explain later. I stayed there, present, because that moment was mine. For the first time in a long while, I wanted to be selfish. Let him wait, let him feel, let him squirm a little. It was the least he deserved. The next day he showed up unannounced. He didn't even bother to send a message. He rang the doorbell forcefully, as if he had the right to demand answers, as if our story had only been paused and now he was deciding to press play. I opened the door. There he was, tense face, reddened eyes, heavy breathing. That mix of possession and wounded pride, of a macho out of his cage. "Are you sleeping with Carlos?" He spat the question as if it were an insult. "Good morning to you too," I replied. "Get to the point. Answer me. Are you really sleeping with him?" I crossed my arms and looked him straight in the eye. "Yes. Why does it bother you?" He let out a mocking laugh, loaded with irritation, running a hand through his hair as he paced in circles, trying to rein in his rage. "You're unbelievable. With my best friend. Seriously, that's low. Even for you." "Low," I repeated, feeling the anger rise like a high tide. "You're talking about low after everything you did? It's not the same. I never slept with any of your friends." "But you tried, didn't you?" I shot back coldly. He froze. His eyes widened for a second, then he looked away, trying to escape his own guilt. "What are you talking about?" "Vanessa. You thought she'd never tell me. That night at the bar you suggested sleeping with her. With both of us. Remember now?" He went silent. A silence that screamed louder than any excuse. "That was a joke," he finally said. "You know I say stupid things sometimes. I'd never do it seriously. It wasn't a joke to her. And it wasn't to me. And even if it had been, What kind of joke does someone make who claims to love his partner? I love you, he said, almost desperate. That's why I'm here. You're throwing everything away for an idiot who shouldn't even be in our circle. I smiled bitterly. How funny that now you're using the word love. When I made you pancakes for your birthday, you said you weren't my boyfriend, that we were just friends with benefits. That wasn't a joke. You were clear, cold, confident. I was confused. I didn't know what I felt. No. You just didn't want to give up the others. And now that you see me happy with someone who surpasses you in every way, you come here to lecture me about morals. He scoffed. He was disarmed, yet still trying to look offended. His eyes glistened as if they wanted to cry, but pride held him back. Because deep down it wasn't love he felt, it was possession. And losing me was what was truly destroying him. He's only with you to provoke me, he said in one last attempt at vanity. No, I replied. He's with me because he respects me, listens to me, and values me. Something you never did. He looked at me as if I were a stranger. As if for the first time he understood I was no longer the woman who smiled while making pancakes and waited for crumbs of affection. He didn't know this version of me. And he never would. Leave, I said firmly. And use the walk to think about everything you lost. He hesitated. Looked around, searching for an excuse, a crack to slip through. But there was nothing left. No opportunity, no justification, no us. I closed the door. Not just the door to my house, but the door to our story. The following Monday, while I was still processing everything that had happened over the weekend, his visit, the shouting, the look of shock when he realized I knew the truth, I received a message from Carlos. Hey, I want to shake up your routine a bit this week. Would you like to have dinner with me again? Nothing fancy, I promise. Just you, me, and really good pizza. I smiled. I truly smiled. Not as a reaction to provocation or a bitter victory, but lightly, peacefully. I replied, Wednesday night is all yours. Simple. Direct. Real. Just like he had always been with me. On Wednesday I got ready without rushing. Nothing over the top. Jeans, a light blouse, and just mascara to highlight my eyes. It wasn't about impressing. It was about feeling good. About going out with someone who made me laugh, who listened to me, who treated me as a priority and not a pastime. Carlos picked me up. He opened the car door with that shy old-fashioned gentlemanly gesture and greeted me with a sincere smile. I missed your laugh, he said as soon as I sat down. And I missed someone who makes me laugh, I replied. We went to a small cozy pizzeria downtown. Old wooden tables, fun pictures on the walls, and a waiter who clearly knew Carlos. The usual? He asked. Today I have special company, Carlos replied. I want it to be extra good. We talked about everything. Work, music, teenage heartbreaks, old movies almost no one remembers. I laughed. I caught myself playing with my hair, relaxed, light. It was a complete contrast to the tense conversations and awkward silences I was used to. There I could be myself, whole without fear. After pizza we walked slowly, like people who didn't want the night to end. He asked if I was okay after everything that had happened. I answered honestly. I'm not 100%, but I'm rebuilding myself little by little. And you've helped more than you can imagine. He smiled, this time differently, more deeply. I never wanted to interfere or force anything. But since that party, when he treated you like you were just one more, I knew he didn't deserve you. And do you think you do? I asked. He stopped, looked at me for a few seconds, and said, I don't know if I deserve you. But I admire you, I respect you, and I want to truly know you. Not for what he said you were, but for who you really are. My heart raced. I hadn't expected it. Not so direct, not so honest. Then get to know me, I replied with a firmness that surprised even me. We stayed there, in the middle of the sidewalk, looking at each other as if the world had given us a truce. When he slowly leaned in and asked me with his eyes if he could kiss me, I simply closed my eyes and let it happen. It was a calm kiss, full of care, with no rush and no hidden intentions. A kiss that said without words, I'm here and I'm not going to hurt you. And in that moment I believed him because I deserved exactly that. After so many games, lies and silences, I deserved a man who knew how to be light. And if by chance the other one found out, if he twisted in rage, screamed or lost his mind, that was no longer my problem. The pain he caused stopped imprisoning me. Now I had someone who looked at me the way no one ever had before. Without fear, without doubt, as if he had finally chosen well. A few weeks after that kiss with Carlos, my life found a new center. It wasn't perfect. Nothing is. But for the first time in a long while, I woke up calm. I no longer waited for messages that never came, no longer measured every word, no longer walked on eggshells. Carlos didn't play games with me. He was simply there, present and real. And for someone who had spent a year being treated like an option wrapped in exclusivity, that was liberating. We started seeing each other often. Movies, cafes, walks, nights at home cooking together. He understood my silences and didn't try to fill them with empty promises. He listened to me, made me laugh, made me feel seen. And of course, the other one couldn't stand it. His ego wouldn't allow it. In the third week, he showed up outside my building without warning. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. Wrinkled clothes, red eyes, but pride fully intact. His arrogance didn't fall away even with tears. "You've turned into Anna," he spat as soon as he saw me, without even saying hello. The word hit my chest like a spark, but instead of igniting me, it froze me. For 1 second, just one, I almost laughed. The underscore in your head are the women who don't kneel when you snap your fingers, right? I replied, crossing my arms. The ones who don't make you pancakes on your birthday after you tell them they're not your girlfriend. He snorted and began pacing back and forth like a caged animal. "You're with Carlos. With my best friend. Do you think that's right? That it's dignified?" I stepped closer. "What I think is that you were never my boyfriend, remember? You repeated it like a mantra. Friends with benefits, no labels, just fun. So I freed myself from that nothing, and found someone who actually wanted to do everything." He looked at me with rage, but it wasn't rage at me, it was rage at himself. "And do you know the difference between you and him?" I continued. "You desired me. He chose me. You used me to inflate your ego. He listens to me, respects me, and values me. You left me crying night after night. He makes me fall asleep smiling." He tried to laugh, as if he were above it all. "He's just using you to mess with me." "No, sweetheart. He doesn't even talk about you. You're the past. A mistake that's been overcome. The only one obsessed here is you." He clenched his fists, jaw rigid. I wasn't afraid. "You were never a man to me," I said. "You were a spoiled child who collected women like trophies. And now you're losing your mind because one of them decided to step off the shelf. Do you think he's going to love you forever?" he shouted, out of arguments. "He'll get tired too. Everyone does. Maybe yes, maybe no. But if it ends, it will end with dignity and respect. Not with lies, betrayal, and cowardice." He fell silent. The mask of superiority slowly slipped away. "I was everything you said you wanted," I finished. "Faithful, present, loving, devoted. But you were so busy pretending to be free that you lost someone who only wanted to love you. And the worst part is that you didn't lose to a stranger. You lost to someone who saw your trash and still chose to see me." He lowered his gaze, swallowed, and turned away. He left without another word. And that's when I knew I wasn't just free of him. He was the one who would now sleep with a twisted stomach, checking his phone without seeing my name, remembering my laugh, my affection, my touch, knowing he would never have any of that again. Vanessa, my best friend, never mentioned his name again. I also distanced myself from those who insisted on justifying him by saying he didn't know how to love. Those who don't know how to love can learn. Those who don't want to, don't. And he never wanted to. Carlos, on the other hand, stayed. Not as a consolation prize, but as someone who saw my cracks and chose not to run. He reminded me that love is not noise or drama or uncertainty. It is presence, it is peace. I didn't become cold or bitter, but I stopped accepting the bare minimum disguised as everything. I learned that someone who doesn't claim you doesn't deserve you. That someone who diminishes you when you give yourself is not a man, but a child playing at having a woman. And above all, that you don't beg for love. You walk away with class, with dignity, and let karma do the rest. A few months passed, and the storm finally cleared from my life. The man who mocked my loyalty and swore he wasn't my boyfriend is now nothing more than a distant shadow. Sometimes I hear he still talks about me as if we were an unfinished story. But I no longer care. Now I'm happy, truly. Carlos and I made our relationship official in a light way, without pressure or drama. It was an ordinary afternoon, after coffee and a walk through the park. He took my hand, looked me in the eyes and said, "I know you're coming from a place where love was doubt. With me, I want it to be certainty. If you're still ready to love, I'm here, not as a prize, but as someone who wants to build with you." I said yes. And I never regretted it. Today our days are calm, filled with laughter, long conversations, and sincere kisses. He makes me pancakes, and I make sure never to forget how valuable it is to have someone who isn't afraid to say, "I love you," and prove it without games. The pain of the past is still there, but it no longer hurts. It's just a scar. It reminds me how much I grew, how much I deserve, and how many crumbs I accepted without knowing there was a banquet waiting for me at the right table, with the right person. Carlos was never a revenge trophy. He was the unexpected cure, the soft light after so much darkness. And I, the one who chose not to beg, am now the woman who is chosen with pride. And if I learned anything from all of this, it's simple and clear. Who doesn't claim you, doesn't deserve you. Who underestimates you, loses you. And whoever knows what they're holding in their hands, protects it, loves it, and stays. If this story stirred something inside you, don't just scroll past it. Leave a like, share it, and follow the account for more real stories that hurt, but awaken.